AgWeek weather is sponsored by Bremer Bank. Connect with a banker today at bremer.com.
Are these frigid temps here to stay? Here's John with our AgriWeather outlook.
Our weather pattern this winter continues to be dominated by, in the upper levels of the atmosphere at the jet stream level, wind coming mostly out of the northwest into the north central part of the country. In other words, it comes from Lake Alberta toward the Great Lakes. And that northwest flow pattern is exactly what keeps persisting and what has given us our weather pattern this winter. It is related to the global La Nina pattern. This is a very common jet stream configuration during the La Nina winters, and it tends to make our weather across much of the north central middle of the United States go back and forth between mild and cold. And generally speaking, these winters are not quite as wet in the upper Midwest northern plains as they are in other types of winters. It doesn't necessarily mean they're dry. It's just these are usually not the wettest patterns. Now, that could change a little bit. But for the time being, here's what we're seeing. A temporary aberration in that northwest flow pattern, but it will be back. Some pretty cold weather, I think, will be dropping down into south central Canada through the middle of the week, giving us a glancing blow. And then here comes that northwest flow again. It's really predominated by this ridge of high pressure over the Rocky Mountains, and that has been there basically all through the winter. So we get this northwest flow, which allows cold weather to drop down into the northern plains and the Great Lakes, which it will some of the days this week, but it also allows Chinook winds to develop right in here. Westerly dry winds coming down the slopes of the Rockies, and here in the northern plains region, we can kind of go back and forth a lot. A lot of December has been milder than average, and we'll see some of that in a couple of bursts this upcoming week, following probably another mild spell following that midweek cool snap that will likely develop. Meanwhile, this cold weather is going pretty far south. I don't think it'll threaten the oranges yet, but we are getting some occasional pretty chilly temperatures with freezing highs as far south as Tennessee and maybe even northern Georgia by the weekend, while it'll probably be warmer up in the northern plains and with this ridge pattern taking shape again. As we go through next week, which will be Christmas week, likely there'll be a little bit of a dip again sometime around the holiday, and likely followed by, again, a return to some milder air and maybe one more cold snap before the end of the year. With this pattern, precipitation-wise, I think early in this first week, right around December 14th, 15th, 16th, there'll be a little snow system coming out of the northern plains heading east. That'll bring more rain to the eastern seaboard. Pacific Northwest looks wet, but Southern California does not. The last week of this period, which is Christmas week, looking fairly quiet. There'll be some lake effect snows, some light snows in the northern plains, and some showers in the deep south.